Hello and welcome. My name is Ryan Gibbons. I'm the Director of Theater here at ASU Beebe, and I'd like to welcome you to this continuing education class on team building. Maybe nothing harder in the world of the arts than building a team. Actors, tech people tend to be, dramatic, and it's hard to keep them on the same team. Here in Beebe, I'm the only faculty member for the theater program, and I have one assistant, Jason McCoy, who is a 29-hour-a-week part-time employee. And so we have to constantly create the leadership team using students and volunteers. So this is something that is very important in my daily life. The skills and the tools and the resources I'm going to share in this class are something I use each and every day. 30 years ago, I was doing youth ministry, and I had been sent to a church that had a lot of difficulties in the youth group. And when I came in, I started to try and mold and shape this random ragtag group of young people into a cohesive whole. And they fought me hand, tooth, and nail. And I remember clearly one meeting of the youth group where I just stopped what was happening and said, why can't I get you people to work together on the same page? Why are you so against that? And one of the young men, a senior named Terry, said, sir, I'm not sure we want to be on the same page in the same team. And that honest response has shaped how I think about team building and leadership. And so in that youth group, I created a student action leadership team where they each could apply to be on it and have a role within that. And that worked very well. And that's a concept I've used again and again over the years. When I came here to ASU Beebe, my predecessor around Thanksgiving retired suddenly and out of the blue, leaving no one to man the helm beginning in the spring semester. So I was hired on an interim basis and told, well, you can grow it, maybe you can stay. And so that's what I set out to do. But that was not a cohesive group, and it was a very small group, and most of them weren't theater majors. So to create a team out of that was a real chore. And that is something that I've been working on now for 3 years here at ASU Beebe. And I'm proud to say that we've made a lot of strides in that area. So the resources and things that I want to share with you today are things that I have created to go from 3 theater majors that I was handed here at ASU Beebe to the 30 plus theater majors that should be here beginning in just a few weeks. First thing is, think about a jigsaw puzzle. Think about how those pieces fit together. Think about those various colors. Think about how you bring those together. Now, you may be like me and you may take the end or outside pieces and begin there. Maybe you like to take similar colors and try and fit those together. Maybe you're looking for a certain shape or a certain number of sides that you like to work with. Whatever that is, creating a team is much like that. It is not an easy process, not always a linear process, and every one of us is a little bit different. And so to try and fit all those shapes together and create a cohesive whole can be very, very difficult. So think about the jigsaw puzzle pieces you have, and think about the picture that you're trying to create together using those different pieces. What are the methods that you're going to use to try and fit those together? Now, one of the things that I do with my group is to employ a test for a personality indicator called the Enneagram. You may not be familiar with the Enneagram, but I make all of my students go through that particular process because I think it matters. Now, maybe you use the Myers-Briggs type indicator, maybe use the DISC test, maybe you already do certain things like that, but I really and truly believe in the Enneagram. And one of the reasons that I believe in it is because there are 9 numbers. It's a system of 9 numbers. And what the Enneagram says is that we have all of those 9 numbers within us. And so depending on the makeup of the group that we're in, we may test out at a different number because I'm not constantly the same person in all groups, in all situations, at all times. I love that. about the Enneagram. I love the versatility that offers. Second thing that's beautiful about the Enneagram is that it allows for the fact that there is me, then there is me in a good place, and then there's me that's not in a good place. And it offers advice and strategies on how to work with folks in those places, because this has been a very, very hard season of my life. My father passed April 25th in the middle of COVID-19, and my mother has dementia. And so I've been trying to deal with caring for her, helping her to cope. And it has not been an easy season. We were flipped suddenly, like I know many of you were, to an online format. And many of my students here at ASU Beebe don't own technology. They may not even have Wi-Fi back in Lone Oak or Des Arc or the small places that they're from. And so this was an extremely challenging season in my life, and for many of you I know that's true, and the Enneagram allows for that. And so every theater major here in Beebe, I asked them to take that test very early. It identifies certain strengths and skills. The number one is associated with spreadsheets. They tend to be very logical, process-driven thinkers. I have someone who's an Enneagram Type 1 who handles the props for me. They handle a room that we call the vault. And if it gets too far out of control, she will beg me to go in and clean out the vault. And so she has it according to type of prop and period of prop and color of prop. Very process-oriented thinking. Number two tends to be very helping driven. So they're very caring. They naturally reach out to others to help them. We need those people because emotions run high, and so I love to have adults who are involved in the program who are Enneagram Type 2. It's very, very helpful. Enneagram Type 3 are very success-driven. They will help you reach goals. They are also the Enneagram Type number, however, who will argue with you the most as a professor. They will scrap with you over 2 points on a particular assignment. I have an Enneagram Type 3 young man in my program who meant to turn in an assignment one time, and he didn't do it. And when I gave him partial credit, he argued with me that he should receive full credit because he had indeed intended to turn in that assignment and had completed that assignment in the necessary amount of time. He had just, neglected to do so. And I said, that is so kind and so nice, and I'm going to stick with partial credit. And if he were sitting next to me today, he would still argue with me about that. So that's what you get into with Enneagram Type 3s. Enneagram Type 4s, we are one of the few areas where you will find them in abundance. They love beauty, they love the arts, they love to create experiences. Typically in the arts, we have far more than our share of what is typically known as the most rare of the Enneagram numbers. And they are crucial. They are also sitting on a razor's edge. The emotion runs high, and it takes next to nothing to tip them one way or the other. Now, you can't have it both ways. You can't live with them and you can't live without them, but that is a part of what's going on. We need them to create the art that we do. Enneagram Type 5 lives in this space above my eyeglasses and below my ever-receding hairline. They are thinkers. They're awfully important because, unlike most of our glib theater people, they have actually thought about what they're going to say before they say it. The problem is they also get trapped in that space, and sometimes they find it really hard to move outside of that space, and they may overthink things terribly, and as theater directors and professors and instructors, we may have to help them create experiences that get them out of that. However, they're very helpful because in a group discussion, in a classroom setting, it's helpful to call on them. They're never the first person to speak, but if you can gain a position of trust with them and you invite their opinion, they will give you a well-reasoned and well-thought-out opinion. I love the Enneagram 6. And when I teach oral comm, when I teach speech, I give the Enneagram test in there as well because I want to know where they are. They don't trust their own voice. They doubt themselves. This is very easy to find in a theater setting where folks would like to believe that they were good at it, but they don't actually believe that they're good at it, and they don't trust their own voice, and they're very doubtful, and they may be very fearful. And I'm looking for those people in my oral comm class in particular, especially if they have a wing of 5, because they're going to be the ones who at 2 o'clock in the morning, the very morning that their first oral comm presentation is due, who are going to email me and say, it's all crap. I'm tossing it all out the window. I need a new topic, Mr. Gibbons. No, you just need to trust the process. You need to trust your voice. You need to trust that you have something to say. Enneagram 7s are those that they meant to prepare for your class or for your show. Honestly, they did. Truly, it was their best intention that they would be ready for whatever it was. But what had happened was, their best friend called at 7 o'clock at night, and they had it in their planner at 8 o'clock. They were going to sit down and they were going to begin working on whatever that is, right? They were going to work on their lines, they were going to work on that presentation, they were going to do it. But their best friend called at 7 o'clock, and their favorite band was going to be appearing over here. Now, over here is actually Tennessee. And so what they did was they drove the 3 hours over to the east side of Memphis, and they saw the show, and they met the band afterward, and it was just a mind-boggling experience. And they drove back, and they got some food on the way back, and they got home about 5, and your class is at 10. They got a nap of about 2 hours, and they showed up. And on the way back to Beebe, they realized that they had not, in fact, prepared for the line snap, the presentation, the project, whatever it was. And so they're going to apologize to you most vociferously, but they're also going to tell you about this incredible experience they had. That's an Enneagram 7. They're the people that you get up at the beginning of your rehearsal to do warm-ups. They have tremendous energy, tremendous. I had a student who was a theater major, and Jeb was filled with energy at all times, unless you were in the classroom and turned the lights out for any reason. And within seconds, he was asleep and snoring in your class, because they're going full tilt all the time, all out. They bring every bit of energy they have to the table until it stops. They're outgoing to a fault. They love people. They care for people. They will engage people. I've had a wonderful student here for the last 2 years. We went to Arkansas Thespian Convention this past year, and I came back to our table. I had been teaching a class, and this young man is speaking to a high school senior from Northwest Arkansas. Now, typically as a junior college, we don't recruit from that area, and yet he had managed to get this young man's attention. This young man is coming here this fall, as hard as it is to believe, because an Enneagram 7 can talk to a rock and make friends with them. Enneagram 8s are the people that get stuff done, and people love them when they're helping them get stuff done, and they hate them the rest of the time because they're a bull in a china shop at all times. I know, I'm an Enneagram 8. We love them and we hate them all at one time. You can't live without them. We need them. They are take-charge people that get it done. They can move a group of people. They can motivate a group of people. They can lead a group of people. Enneagram 9s are considered the peacemakers, and you will know them because if you ask them where they want to go to lunch today, they'll say, I don't care. You say, what kind of role do you want in the show? I don't care. What do you want to do this weekend? It doesn't matter to me. We'll do what you want. Now, we can't get along without them, but they appear very, very passive. They're not necessarily, but they appear that way, and we need them. They are the people that you insert into a group of terribly dramatic people, and they allow you to have a positive end or result. Now, as you're thinking about putting together your team, I encourage you to look up the Enneagram. That's E-N-N-E-A-G-R-A-M, Enneagram. If you Google that, you're going to find hit after hit after hit. But think about what kind of person that you need given the skill set, given the job, given the task at hand. You're going to need some students to lead warm-ups. Where are the Enneagram 7s? You're going to need some people to be president of your thespian society, your sorority, your theater sorority, fraternity, whatever you may have going on. You're going to need those people. But you're also going to need some nines so that they don't tear each other's eyes out, okay? You're going to need some ones. You're going to need some helpers who will pitch in at a moment's notice, especially if you're in a situation like me where you find yourself as the only instructional faculty. So when I talk to students about what we're going to do here at ASU Beebe, and I tell them they're going to be involved, I don't mean what other college professors mean. They mean that you'll come in and you'll assist for a year or two, and then maybe by your junior year you'll be... I don't mean that. I mean, August 18th, when we start classes, you might be my lighting coordinator, and you may not yet know anything about lights, but I'm going to teach you, and if you're willing, let's go. And so I have to identify these people immediately to consider who are the best fits for my team, right? Because I don't have other faculty. I don't even have other full-time staff to work with. And you may be in much the same boat where you are the main man or woman and you need to create a team. All right, well, my encouragement is find the Enneagram, read up on it, give the Enneagram test, and try and create a team that uses those numbers in the best job for those skill sets. Okay, Enneagram. Jigsaw puzzle. Third, can I say something to you? Don't ask for opinions you don't want. We are theater people. We're going to get a lot of opinions because theater people tend to be very outgoing. Don't ask for opinions you don't want. Only ask for opinions when you're ready to listen to them. More often than not, I see people make this mistake in leadership over and over again. They ask people for opinions, but they want affirmation. If you want affirmation, ask for affirmation. If you want opinions, ask for something different. Because if you're going to ask an Enneagram 8, if you're going to ask an Enneagram 4, if you're going to ask an Enneagram 1 for an opinion, they're dang well going to give it to you, and they may not bring it nicely or softly. They may bring it extremely forcefully. Ask for opinions only when you want them, right? Don't get lost in, well, I had to do a survey about that. I work for a college. Every aspect of our life is survey driven. Most people don't even answer them honestly because they're afraid of repercussions regarding, well, what if I say something bad? And so we get affirmation when what I think we really want is opinion. Make sure you know the difference and make sure you're, as a leader, asking for that. Because if you're going to go to someone who you've given authority over an area, or you're going to ask a certain Enneagram number about how you should, the course you should chart, they're going to give it to you. And if you don't respond well, they're not going to feel like they're part of the team. They're going to feel like nothing. If you're going to create a team, you have to create a team. If you give them authority, they have to have authority. Recently, at the collegiate level, a faculty member only had 3 people in a class. The dean said that class is not going to make. Faculty member went above the dean. They reversed the decision. As a director, don't do stuff like that. That is damaging to the process. You don't have deans, probably, I get that. Our verbiage is different. If we're going to give a person authority, if we're going to give a person responsibility, if we're going to ask people to do a job, make sure we allow them to do that job. I have had the tremendous fortune here at Beebe for the last year to have 2 non-traditional college students, one in his 40s and one in her 30s. Grandpa and Mama Brandy have been essential to what I have done here because in lieu of having staff or faculty, I've been able to ask them and invite them to help me in ways that befit the fact that they're 35 and 44 and they're not 18 years old. I put them in positions of leadership and authority, and the college students have followed that. Now the reality is that they have been college students. They both graduated now, but they've both been college students just like the rest of them. But because their age, their experience, and their skill set I've been able to invite them and ask them to do some things it would be hard to ask an 18-year-old young person to do. They just haven't had that life experience. And that, for me, has been a lifesaver in terms of building a team. The trade-off for me is that I have released responsibility to those two. And I have trusted to those two, which as a professor, handing that over to a student, especially an Enneagram 8 professor, handing that over to a student, even if they are just a few years younger than me, is a difficult thing to do. But I think you have to do it. I matched the skill sets that Jason and Brandy have with the authority and the jobs that I needed done. I looked at their skills, I looked at their Enneagram numbers, and I carved a place for them. Now, this next year, I've lost Brandy because she has timed out. I will have to groom someone else. May not be the same job. I will cultivate that relationship with the student. Maybe a non-traditional student, may not. I may not have a non-traditional student. In that case, I'll have to use a younger student. That's okay. But I will tailor the job to them because I'm trying to get the jigsaw puzzles pieces to fit together. And for me, that is a never-endingly moving target. Every year is different. I think the same is likely true for you. There are a lot of resources that are out there. I'll show you a couple of them that may help you with this. One is a carded deck called the Creative Whack Pack. This has been around. Roger Van Oak created it. It's been around for 35 years, I bet. Probably late 1970s, something like that. And it challenges folks to think differently. If you are struggling to get your team to work together, if you're struggling to come up with innovative ideas, you might look at a resource like this. Another one is called the Inner Compass Cards by Neil Van Lierop. And these are, it's a similar type of deck. It has different prompts. And it allows you to be who you are and walk your own path and consider this job that you've been asked to do or this role that you've been asked to play in a new way. Don't feel like you have to have every answer in and of yourself. Look to other resources. They are out there. I'm going to assume, because you're an instructor, that you are also a reader. And so I would highly recommend a book by Meta Wagner, which is called What's Your Creative Type? She's going to talk about 5 different kinds of creative type. She's going to talk about A-listers who dream of applause and adoration, fame, and immortality. These are probably going to be your frontline actors and actresses. She talks about artisans who become completely immersed in creativity, losing all track of time. I have had some students here who just on their own are tremendous costumers, makeup artists, because they're artisans. They haven't waited around on someone to teach them. They've just immersed themselves in their own creative process. She also talks about game changers who seek to break boundaries and crash conventions. I have a young man, he's an Enneagram 3, he desires success. He's going to be a game changer. This spring, he and another one of my students came to me with a script that they had written, and they said, we really want you to challenge us and help us move beyond. And so they and I worked one-on-one, or one-on-two, I guess as the case may be, to do this duet piece. And unfortunately, we didn't get to perform it due to COVID-19, but they really broke some boundaries and crashed conventions with this piece, and I hope we'll be able to present it at some point. Meta Wagner also talks about sensitive souls who want to express themselves while also helping others. You may have writers, you may have painters, you may have a variety of folks who, in addition to maybe acting or set building, have other creative pursuits. They are sensitive souls. It's important to build a safe environment that they can express themselves. And in a typically cutthroat profession like theater, I think it's incumbent upon us as educators to really work hard to create safe spaces where they can express themselves, help others, and feel safe while doing it. Some of our young people, Meta Wagner says, are activists. They have a fiery desire to right wrongs and change the world. Hamilton is a beautiful piece of poetry and drama. It is boundary breaking, it is convention breaking, it has a desire to right wrongs. And by the very device of using people of color to take on roles that were limited to white people, it is a game changer. Even if you don't like rap or hip hop music, even if the story is not maybe perfectly true to form, it's a game changer. It's an activist role that Lin-Manuel Miranda took on with this show. And we have young people who want to do that. And I think we need to help them find that passion and fuel that passion. And so the book by Meta Wagner, What's Your Creative Type, may be helpful. It's not the deepest book I've ever read. However, I think it may be helpful to think in terms of building a team. Who are my A-listers? Who are my artisans? Who are my game changers? Who are my sensitive souls? Who are my activists, right? I think it's awfully important that we hone our creative habits and processes as far as we can. This is an older book by the dancer Twyla Tharp that's called The Creative Habit. And in it, she's got a tremendously important idea, which is to constantly be scratching for new ideas. And I think as social media has evolved and as young people have evolved and as strategies have evolved, it's important to continue to think creatively about how to build a team. What worked for us 20 years ago will probably not work today. Students today may very well be sitting in the same classroom, not speaking to one another, but contacting one another on the phone. In the last 2 years, just even the social media platforms have changed. Facebook is for old people. Snapchat, TikTok, others have taken over. Instagram, different social media platforms. What you did 5 years ago, 10 years ago is probably not going to work super well today in terms of building a team. So I think it's important to continue to scratch for new ideas. And Twyla Tharp talks effectively in this book about that. So I think it's important to use tools at hand. I think the Enneagram is really important to consider. What are the various types of people that you have in your classes or in your program? How can you bring them together? Maybe build yourself a jigsaw puzzle. You can buy blank ones. Create your own picture of what you're looking for. What are the puzzle pieces that you're looking for? Cultivate jobs that fit the skill sets of the people you have. If, like me, you have a constantly changing roster of people, and I only teach at junior college, so my cast changes every 2 years. I don't even teach for 4 years. I've got 2 years. I teach freshman and sophomore classes, trying to help them graduate from high school theater, where really and truly we were just hoping to get the show up there, right? Like, does everybody remember their lines? Does everybody remember the words of the song? And was no one harmed in the process of putting on the show? And did grandma, grandpa, mom, and dad, aunt, and uncle, everybody get to be there, right? Now, you may argue with me. You say I'm a high school theater teacher. I'm aiming for more than you betcha. You betcha. And there are small high schools out there that it's an adventure just to get the show done, right? So I'm trying to speak to all of you in one video. As a leader, don't ask for opinions that you don't want. If you give responsibility, back them up when you have the opportunity. Use resources like the Creative Whack Pack or Inner Compass. Find books like What's Your Creative Type or The Creative Habit that will help you to learn new skills or modify existing skills or find a new process for building your team. One last concept I want to talk about that may be the most important. I'm sitting in my classroom here in Beebe. In a few weeks, Lord willing, there will be students here. They will be socially distanced. The class size will be different. Things will be different. This speech will be the same. Please, please, please do not date other people in my theater. Now, you say that's crazy. They won't listen. I know that. I'm not crazy. Well, I mean, maybe I am, but I'm not crazy in that I think they're suddenly going to do that. There's nothing worse in a drama theater program than interpersonal drama, right? It is death dealing to a program. It's death dealing to a show. It's death dealing to recruiting, if you're me, and you're trying to get more students there. If you recruit someone and they come in and it is just terrible, because it's a toxic atmosphere. You have nothing to recruit them to. Avoid drama. Now I know they're theater kids, they are dramatic, as the good Lord knows. I know, I get it. However, I do think there are 3 things that we can do to help avoid drama wherever possible. I know there will be dating, but I do try and cut down on where I can. That's not one of the 3 points, but I shared with you. Here are the 3 things that I think that we can do. First is use our intuition. I think that experience has taught us certain things. I think we know that there are certain places where problems are likely to break out. So we have a green room, a dressing area, a hangout place here that I call the clubhouse. I only open the clubhouse for a few hours a week. I do not leave it open at all times because my experience and my intuition tell me that the more time that theater kids have to hang out, the more likely it is that trauma erupts. They're already going to spend countless hours together working on that Rodgers and Hammerstein musical, right? They're going to get plenty of time together. I don't know that they need more. And so I literally leave it open for a few hours. What does your experience and intuition tell you? Where are the spots where it's likely to break out, right? Where are the problem spots? What have you learned? Use your intuition. Second, trust your instinct. If it seems like something is going on, go investigate it, try and nip it in the bud. If your instincts are that thus and so are dating, or if your instinct is that Sheila and Nancy are fighting, go figure it out. Don't wait till it's a full-blown soap opera before you do something about that, right? If you wait until then, it may be too late. Use your instinct. You've been doing this for a while. You have learned some things. You have become instinctual about certain things. Also, as a director, use your instincts there as well. What's holding this person back? Is that possibly an interpersonal problem? You're asking them to do something on stage, they're not really getting it. Is it that they don't get it, or is it that they don't feel safe? Or that there is something going on within the group that they don't feel like they can do that thing that you're asking them to do, right? They don't feel comfortable to explore that emotion. They don't feel safe to try that accent out. Use your instincts. Maybe there's more going on there, and if you feel like there is, explore it. Cut it off at the pass. Move past that, right? And the third I would be intentionality. I allow for a lot in my theater program, but in a few weeks I will talk to them, and there is one rule that I will never allow to be broken ever. I'm extremely intentional about creating a safe place, and it is never okay to mock or make fun of a classmate. You will see a completely different side of me if you try it. I will pull you out of class right this second. We're going to create a safe place. We have to do so intentionally. Part of that starts with vulnerability from me as the director. I have to be willing to share things with my students. Sometimes that's scary, right? I have to let them know who I am as a person. And I have to revisit that because every single year I have a different crew than I had the year before. Every 2 to 3, 2.5 to 3 years, I've completely rotated the group out. It's a completely different group. I am finishing the end of my 3rd year. I have 2 students left who will be graduating Christmas who were here when I started. And at that point, the Mousetrap, which is the first show we did, will only live on through the pictures on the wall because nobody was here except this guy right here. And so I have to continually and intentionally set the agenda. I have to chart the course. I have to steer the ship, and I have to do so intentionally. And I have very few rules, but that is one of them. And I will not give an inch on it because there is no way to create a safe atmosphere to create in if we also allow our students to mock one another or to challenge one another about the things that are tender spots for them. When I came here, I had a young woman who has a pretty serious lisp. And if she's feeling safe, and I reminded her to breathe, we can move past it in large part. And I gave her a couple of significant roles during her time here at ASU Beebe. She's at a 4U university now, continuing her education. And I'm very proud of her because that was a significant thing to overcome. And she didn't do it perfectly all the time, but our director of student life, when he came to see our first show, when he got done, when it was over, he came and he said, "I thought you said you had a student with a lisp." He couldn't tell. That only happens if we intentionally create a space in which our students can safely create. Now, your role may not be my role, your rules may not be my rules, but whatever those are, intentionally set them out and stick to them. Because there's no way you're going to build a team unless you use your intuition, your instinct, and you move and create with intentionality. There's no way. That's not going to happen. I hope that these ideas have been helpful for you. I've enjoyed sharing them with you, and I hope that you'll come over when we're able to have shows again and check something out at ASU Beebe. I would love to speak with any of you further at a later date and answer any questions you might have. Take care.